Billy, Kenny said that there were some defensive breakdowns on the final 2 threes by Donovan Lamb in the first half. And was there more that you guys could have done to defend the three-point line today?
I thought they shot it very well. I think that you're always in a bind just personnel-wise on the floor. The 2 threes at the end were probably ones that we could have done a little bit better job. One was in transition, and got caught on Lamb, and he probably gave a little bit too much help in the post. And as the ball was going back out, he was late, he knocked it down, and then we tried to switch to zone there because there was not a whole lot of time before the half was out. And I thought, again, he got sucked in a little bit too far on the wing, and they kicked it to him, and he knocked down the second one. But, they shot the ball well. But you got to give help in the post because of Gilchrist and Davis and Jones, just their length and their size. You just don't want those guys individually off on an island. So you got to come off here and there, and they shot it well. So you got to give them credit.
Billy, were your 3-point shooting problems you had, were they good shots that just didn't go in, contested shots, and maybe you should have made an extra pass?
Yeah, I don't know if we necessarily attacked their defense great in terms of with a high level of intelligence there, but I did think that we had some decent looks. I thought one of the things that hurt us, at least in the first half, is I thought we had a lot of plays in around the basket that we could have finished, that we didn't finish, that were on the rim, that we had pretty clean looks. And then I thought we had a couple plays where we got in there and probably, as you mentioned, could have made the extra pass, had a little bit better ball movement. But it was probably a combination of their defense, and then we missed some shots.
Billy, is this another case when you start missing some shots and maybe they start thinking like they're worried too much about shooting the ball and the defense breaks down?
Well, listen, they're very, very good. There's not like one thing necessarily you do against them that is a formula to win. They have obviously, I think, good shooting. Maybe the stats don't necessarily prove out that way, but Lamb is a very, very capable shooter. Miller is a capable shooter. I think when Teague's got his feet set, he's a solid shooter. Jones every once in a while, can throw one in on you. But I think they had the right guys taking threes in terms of when they were open. But then you also got to account for the backboard, and you also got to account for post-ups and things to the basket. So I think there's a lot that goes in. Certainly, shooting the basketball well on the road always helps. We didn't shoot well. But I also thought some of our turnovers there in the stretch, some of their transition, hurt us. I also felt that, we came out of the half and we got off to at least to a good start. We scored the first 4 points, and then I thought that they answered the bell. I think they made back-to-back threes. I think Lamb and Teague both made threes where they kind of regained some momentum pretty quickly.
Billy, you've coached national championship teams, and you've seen the great Kentucky teams over the past couple of years. How does this Kentucky team measure up?
Well, I don't think, the one thing that I like about their team is I love their disposition on the floor. I got a lot of respect and admiration, for Gilchrist, just his disposition out there. And I think that, in 2000 for us, in 06 and 07, having a chance there, there's a certain disposition you have to have. And I'm not talking about an arrogance or a cockiness, but there's like a focus level in terms of what really goes into winning at that level. Like there's a mentality there that's just different. I don't know how to necessarily describe it, but I think a lot of their guys, I think Davis and Gilchrist, and I've always been a Miller fan, just the way those guys carry themselves, I'm impressed with that. I don't think that John's first year or second year or third year, I think you could have said the same thing about all 3 teams. A lot of it comes down to your matchups. A lot of it comes down to how you're playing. They could get into a team maybe that's a bad matchup for them, or a team that can kind of maybe take away some things. But I would think that they have, as good of a chance as anybody. You know, we've played against Syracuse, we've played against Ohio State on the road, so you know, I think we've gotten a pretty good glimpse of some teams that have been ranked in the top 5 for most of the year. You know, I would say that Ohio State is different. You know, they don't have necessarily length. You know, Syracuse to me is a really, really interesting team because they have every bit as much length as Kentucky, and they have more depth. So they're an interesting team, and obviously they play zone. But I think, you know, when you get into the tournament, it's a one-shot deal, and anything can happen on one game. You know, anything can happen. But clearly, I think that if they went all the way, it wouldn't be surprising.
Billy, can you talk about the play of Teague and what you thought of him on both ends of the court and how important he is for what they do?
Yeah, I think he's gotten a lot better from watching film on him. I think he's really improved. You know, I think like anything else, when you're playing a lot of young guys, it takes time for guys to gel and mesh and understand roles and those kind of things. There's times he gets a little too loose out there, you know, but he's got great speed and quickness. He knows where the ball needs to go. You know, I thought that was a matchup tonight that, you know, probably really hurt us when you look at Teague versus Walker. You know, that was something that was a big difference in the game. He had 5 turnovers, Teague, in the game, but I think some of his turnovers were trying to make the right play. But he also had 10 assists, so I thought he played very well.
Let's go to Pat and wrap up with Greg.
You touched on it, Billy, about having played all 3 of those teams on the road. Would you care to rank them right now where they stand in your experience?
Well, you know, I think they're all a little bit different. I think in terms of star power, you know, in terms of talent, 1 through 6 or 7, I think Kentucky has the most of anybody. You know, obviously, I think Ohio State's is kind of a 3-headed monster with Sullinger and Buford, and I love the point guard a lot. And I think they're getting play out of Thomas. Now, we played them very, very early and thought that they played well against us. Syracuse just has incredible depth, you know, and I don't know necessarily who would be better because I think that Syracuse will play them all zone, and their zone's a little bit unique. But if you're looking at talent, I think Kentucky's got, when you look at, you know, they have clearly 6 guys that are going to be first-round draft picks on their team. I don't know if Syracuse has 6 first-round draft picks, but they have really, really good talent, and they have incredible length. But I think that would be a heck of a game, and I think it would be a heck of a game with Ohio State. I know Kentucky beat Ohio State last year.
Piggybacking off what Pat asked, you've now played some of the top teams in the conference, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt. Where would you say Kentucky ranks in relation to them? Are they that far ahead of where you are and where those other teams are right now?
They're very, very good. They're very, very good. I don't think that there's anybody in our league that has the level of talent that they have. You know, and I think John does a great job getting them all to mesh and gel together and play together. I think they continue to get better. You know, they're talent-wise, you know, probably from what we've played, the best in the league right now. But, you know, I think John told me they're going to Vanderbilt next. That's a hard game. Vanderbilt's really, really good. You know, I think Kentucky may have to go to Mississippi State. You know, Mississippi State's really, really good too. They're talented. I think that right now they're playing at a very, very high level. They're playing very, very well. That's not to say that they're going to win them all. It's not to say they couldn't win them all. But I still think there's some good teams in the league. But I think, you know, in terms of their talent level, there's nobody, you know, with that. I think there's, you know, you look at, you know, Bost and Moultrie and the big kid, you know, up front. There's 3 of them. You know, I think kind of the same thing with Vanderbilt, Nazili, Jenkins, and Taylor. But there's nobody in our league that has what Kentucky has in terms of top 7.
Let's wrap it up here with Greg.
Billy, Herb really had a rough game today. He struggled against Kentucky in 3 games last year. How much does their length and athleticism give him trouble?
Well, I think that that's one of the things that makes them very, very good is they have great length. You have great length across the front line. You know, Teague has got good speed, quickness, and can pressure. You know, when they moved Miller to the 2, you know, he at times last year played the 3 and the 4 for them. So he's a big, strong guy. So I think that that's one thing, is they have great length at the basket, and they have very, very good length on the perimeter, because when you have, when you have Gilchrist and Miller on the perimeter, they have great length, and even Wilcher's got very good length as well.
All right, thanks, guys.